Welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Chris Beers. Here are today's top stories. A rapidly intensifying bomb cyclone burying parts of North Carolina in record snow, knocking out power, halting travel, and canceling flights as bitter Arctic air pushes rare, freezing temperatures and snow flurries into Florida. The U.S. government is partially shut down. House Speaker Mike Johnson saying he's confident that he has enough Republican votes to end it by at least Tuesday. Iran's supreme leader warning Sunday that a U.S. strike on Iran could spark a regional war. The situation in the Middle East is tense as U.S. warships move there. A major shift in U.S.-Venezuela relations. An American envoy arrives in Caracas as plans move forward to reopen the U.S. embassy. And President Trump signals warmer ties and possible oil cooperation after the capture of Nicolas Maduro. President Trump choosing the successor to Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell last week. Will Kevin Warsh lead the Fed to make the rate cuts the president has been calling for? Our guest explains. It's America's most consumed beverage. According to a 2025 report, Americans drink more coffee than they do bottled water. But is coffee ultimately good for our health? Vital Signs' Brendan Fallon presents the views of two nutritionists. And a new exhibition at the British Museum is rethinking the samurai. From warriors to artists and leaders, the surprising history is being revealed, including the powerful role of women.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
We continue our coverage of a major winter weather event sweeping across the United States as a powerful bomb cyclone and Arctic blast impact millions from the southeast up to the east coast. Recent updates show that the storm has intensified into one of the most significant winter systems in years, with widespread effects and serious human and infrastructure impacts. Meteorologists report that a rapidly intensifying nor'easter off the Carolinas has strengthened into a bomb cyclone, bringing historic snowfall of up to 17 inches in parts of North Carolina, along with hurricane-force winds and blizzard-like conditions. Major highways, including Interstate 85 near Charlotte, have been shut down after vehicle pileups, while downed trees and power lines have left tens of thousands without electricity. As the storm moves offshore, forecasters warn that bitter Arctic air will sweep across the southeast, pushing freezing temperatures as far south as Florida, where rare snow flurries have been reported. The National Weather Service has issued winter storm and extreme cold warnings across multiple states as emergency crews remain on standby and residents urged to stay indoors and avoid travel. More than 1,100 U.S. flights have been canceled on Sunday, according to FlightAware. Nearly 2,500 flights were canceled on Saturday during the peak of the storm.
What are we doing? North Carolina being slammed with a monster winter storm.
This one's going to be a big one. I think this is one that we haven't seen since the 1980s.
Greenville's mayor says the eastern part of the state could see up to 14 inches of snow. This system already causing treacherous conditions on the roads. This train colliding with a semi in Gastonia, about 20 miles west of Charlotte. Fortunately, no one was hurt.
I hope everybody stays safe.
More than 27 million people across the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Appalachians are under winter storm warnings. And at least 4 states have declared a state of emergency.
This is crazy.
As this storm strengthens into what's known as a bomb cyclone, it's expected to move north and unleash hurricane-force wind gusts, heavy snow, and dangerous coastal flooding. This comes as much of the country is facing brutally cold temperatures. Check out deserted Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, courtesy of EarthCam. It's so cold there, the city canceled its annual polar plunge event. Even Orlando could see temperatures below freezing. With temps that low, officials at SeaWorld say some of the rides can't operate because the wheels aren't built for this kind of cold.
It actually gets a little tighter when it's cold. it has more friction and slows the vehicle down.
All of this coming as millions are still recovering from last weekend's catastrophic and deadly winter storm.
House Speaker Mike Johnson saying on Sunday that he believes he has the Republican votes to end a partial government shutdown by at least Tuesday. Here's the story.
Well, let's say I'm confident that we'll do it at least by Tuesday. We have a logistical challenge of getting everyone in town.
The Senate approved an over $1 trillion spending package on Friday to fund the Pentagon and many other agencies until September. However, that agreement isn't official until a vote from the House, which won't happen until Monday. President Trump said Saturday that he hopes enough people will use their heads to end the partial government shutdown. He said he lost 1.5 points of GDP because of the last shutdown. Trump also accused Democrats of not wanting the shutdown to end, saying it makes them look very bad and it's not a good thing for our country.
A partial U.S. government shutdown began on Saturday after Congress failed to approve a deal to keep a wide range of operations funded ahead of a midnight deadline. The Senate on Friday did pass a spending package by a bipartisan vote of 71 to 29.
The bill, as amended, has passed.
But the House of Representatives is out of town and not expected to take up the measure until Monday. Democrats want to end roving patrols, require agents to wear body cameras, prohibit them from wearing face masks, among other things. And Republicans say they are open to some of their ideas.
Sir, do you think it's good having lots of cameras on these kinds of incidents between law enforcement and the people?
I think it would help law enforcement, but I'd have to talk to them. I'm going to be talking to them tomorrow. Actually, I think it would help law enforcement. You know, that works both ways. But I think overall, I think it's 80% in favor of law enforcement.
With congressional approval of the deal, DHS funding would be extended for 2 weeks, giving negotiators time to reach an agreement on immigration tactics. Here's Republican Senator Lindsey Graham.
Reform ICE, count me in. But if you don't get to the root cause of the problem, then you're really not serious about solving it.
On Saturday in Minnesota, a federal judge denied the state's emergency request to block the federal government's immigration enforcement actions as a lawsuit proceeds. The suit was brought by State Attorney General Keith Ellison, as well as the mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul. In it, they argued that the DHS is violating the Constitution's 10th Amendment, which limits the federal government's authority from forcing states to pass laws or to supervise a federal regulatory program. The federal government argues that Minnesota's laws that shield illegal immigrants from deportation violate federal law. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi praised the decision on social media, calling it another huge legal win for the Justice Department.
Well, speaking to Chris Ship, speaking to Tom, a lot of people, we have it in good shape. And, you know, Minnesota crime is way down because of what we've done. We've taken out thousands of criminals. What we want in Minnesota, we want them to open their jails and give us their criminals, and we're gone. That's all we want, and they're going to have to do it.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei saying on Sunday a U.S. attack on Iran would spark a regional conflict. That's according to Iranian state media. Also, a U.S. Navy destroyer docked at the Israeli port of Eilat was seen on Sunday maneuvering into the Red Sea. The U.S. Navy currently has 6 destroyers, 1 aircraft carrier, and 3 combat ships in the region as tensions between Washington and Iran remain high. Despite talks, joining me now to discuss is geopolitical analyst Brandon Weichert, author of The Shadow War, Iran's Quest for Supremacy. Brandon, welcome back to the show. What do you make of the Ayatollah's remarks about a potential regional war?
Well, I think it's very clear, despite whatever maneuvering you're seeing right now from the Americans and Israelis, it's very obvious that the United States and the Israelis are primed to attack the Islamic Republic of Iran. What you've seen over the last 36 to 72 hours, these explosions in Iran, for instance, I think it was seven different cities. There were strategic explosions. I believe that was Israeli shaping operations. They were preparing the battle space. It sounds like they might have targeted an IRGC naval commander. I don't know if they got him. Some say they did. But that man's role would have been to lead a naval flotilla to blockade the Strait of Hormuz if the Americans came in hot and attacked Iran, which I believe they are. The key thing here right now that I think is giving Trump some cold feet is the fact that the Saudis are saying they are not going to assist in shooting down any possible missiles that are fired by Iran at American bases or at Israel. Of course, Iran has a massive missile facility. And also the Iranian anti-ship ballistic missile. These systems are serious threats to the U.S. carrier. The carrier is hiding right now, I was told, behind Oman with its destroyers. So what's going on now is we are now being threatened. And by the way, that anti-ship ballistic missile capability of Iran it's being assisted by Chinese satellite intelligence. They're tracking our carrier in real time.
So you think this attack against Iran is imminent. What could that look like? Give us the range of options.
Well, I think it's imminent, but I think right now the Trump administration is pausing because they're trying to move as many air defense assets into the region because we're depleted and the Israelis are depleted too. So I think they're about to do this, but every time they get close to pulling the trigger, they pull back because they know we're not yet ready. I don't think we ever will be, but the Trump administration wants to go. The Israelis want to go. What that would look like, you would see a massive launch of aircraft from the carrier, FA-18s, the fighter planes. They would be accompanied by EA-18G Growlers, which are electronic warfare planes, whatever bombers we have already stationed in the region. And the key thing here to understand is this would not just be targeting nuclear facilities this time. This would be a comprehensive strike package. We would be targeting not only military facilities like naval facilities to try to prevent that Iranian Navy from blocking the Strait of Hormuz, but we would be targeting regime targets. This would be a regime change mission by another name. And the Iranian regime knows that. And that's why I think they would risk blockading the Strait of Hormuz or even trying to sink or destroy or damage one of our carriers. They don't care at that point what the retaliation would be because they know we're going for broke against them.
Brandon, can you compare this to what we saw unfold in Venezuela, where the U.S. military assisted law enforcement in the arrest of Nicolas Maduro? Then the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, became the interim president, and she seems to be cooperating with Trump. Trump saying they're doing a very good job. But the Iranian regime is a religious fundamentalist group. They're not, drug lords.
Right. No, I think that's a great question. And I think in a perfect world, the President Trump would love to see a replication of that. In fact, the New York Times, take it for what you will, the New York Times reported on Friday that the Trump administration was talking about doing basically dozens of Maduro-style special forces raids in the coming weeks directed against key leadership in Iran. The problem is Iran is not Venezuela. It's a fundamentally different geography. The leadership is different, as you rightly note. Even if Trump could identify a leader within the regime today, that leader is going to be far more ideologically strict or extreme than anything we saw in the Venezuelan regime. So this idea we're going to lop off the head and then sort of like take it over like a parasite, I don't think that'll work here, and it'll force us to keep escalating. And by the way, again, the geography is different. It's a more expansive country. It's a larger country, and you have to deal with all of these spread out targets. If you really want to neutralize the regime, which it sounds like Trump wants to do, this is going to be a long-term strike, and it might end up with American pilots being shot down because the Iranian air defenses are better than what Venezuela had.
Now, the situation in Iran is complicated for other reasons as well. I mean, it's arguable that, or they've been noted for suppressing all kinds of forces that could then spring up and do battle with one another if they were, removed in one way or another. So how does the U.S. balance all this? I mean, it sounds like a much more complicated post-conflict situation to manage than, say, with Venezuela.
Well, the Pottery Barn rule's in effect. You break it, you own it. And I know President Trump doesn't believe that. And he's using the Venezuela experience as proof positive. But this is a very different kind of mission, and it's a very different region than Latin America, different culture, different norms. You're right. Once we knock over the regime, which, by the way, the regime is brittle in Iran, I think it wouldn't be hard to ultimately knock it over. the question of what comes next, the second and third order effects. I know these protesters are passionate and it's wonderful to see them standing up for their rights, but I don't know if they have the capacity to formulate a post-regime system that won't just revert to more, authoritarianism or worse, sectarian conflict. We could see Iran become the new Lebanon. Remember in the 80s, Lebanon broke up into like a multi-sided civil war for decades. The country's never been the same since. We don't want to replicate that in Iran, although there are some people, I think, who do in the United States and in Israel who would love to see just weak countries all over the Middle East. But ultimately, that will breed terrorism. That will breed real bad criminality, things that we're going to be dealing with for decades on. And we don't want to have to deal with that, especially given Iran's strategic location along the Strait of Hormuz, one of the great oil choke points of the world. So you're right. We don't really have a post-war stabilization plan. And we're already struggling to get air defense systems into the region. We would need an even larger force to secure post-war Iran, and the Israelis certainly can't help us with that. So this is really a very dangerous prospect the president is playing with.
So, President Trump says Iran is talking with the U.S. Right now in an attempt to de-escalate everything. But the last high-profile talks the U.S. had with Iran were the backdrop of the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. So how meaningful are such talks at this point?
I don't think they're meaningful at all. I think it's another ruse. I think the president and the Israeli leadership used talks last time to lull the Iranians into a false sense of security, and then they sprung the trap on them in the 12-day war. I think something similar is here. Trump is clearly buying time because he is worried, understandably, that the carrier is not sufficient enough and that the anti-ship ballistic missile capability augmented by China in Iran is very serious, and there's not enough air defenses in the region to protect U.S. bases, personnel, and the Israelis. If Iran goes full bore in a missile barrage against Israel, Tel Aviv and Haifa will be flattened. There will be an economic downturn. It will be a nightmare for our friends in Israel. And all of this just seems pretty unnecessary right now because the Iranian regime at home is very weak. It is brittle. The people will eventually be able to overcome. They don't need us bombing them into democracy. It never works out.
And just in closing here, Brendan, this is a rapidly evolving situation. What should we be watching for in the coming hours and days?
Well, what we should be watching for is what the carrier is doing. And right now, like I said, the carrier is ducked behind Oman, which probably means there's real concern about their safety. So once you see the greater levels of air defense assets moved in, at that point, the president will probably reassess. But remember, the president did want to go in on January 15th, and he was ready to pull the trigger, and he was pulled back by our military and the Israelis, as well as the Arab states. So perhaps he's ready to go now. I think he's ready to go, but there's something holding him back. And the only thing that I can think of is you've got our military guys and you've got the Israelis saying, well, maybe not this second, and you've got the Arabs saying, we're not going to help. But if something changes with those groups where they say, okay, we're good, or if the American military feels like they're secure, we will go in. I have no doubt. If you look at how we're lined up in the region, this is a strike package waiting. That's what's going on here.
All right, geopolitical analyst Brandon Weichert, thank you so much. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
Next, a major shift in U.S.-Venezuela relationships. U.S. envoy Laura Dogu has arrived in Caracas as Washington moves to reopen its embassy for the first time in nearly 7 years. It signals a major step for the U.S. as it works to restore diplomatic ties after a long freeze. The visit follows a series of high-level contacts between the two countries. President Trump spoke about warming relations with Venezuela after the capture of longtime regime leader Nicolas Maduro. Here's what he said aboard Air Force One yesterday.
We're getting along very well with the leadership of Venezuela. They're doing a really good job. We're going to be selling a lot of oil, and we'll take some, and they'll take a lot. And they're going to do very well. They're going to make more money than they've ever made. And it's going to be beneficial to us. We're going to really, I think Venezuela is really going to turn around.
Venezuela's foreign minister welcomed Dogu's arrival. He called it part of a working agenda between the two countries aimed at rebuilding ties and resolving differences through diplomatic dialogue. The U.S. and Venezuela cut diplomatic relations back in 2019 after Maduro ordered a break and both countries closed their embassies. That's after President Donald Trump backed an opposition leader who declared himself Venezuela's interim president. Dogu's visit comes after a U.S. State Department team traveled to Venezuela earlier this month. It's the first such trip since Maduro was captured. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed during a Senate hearing last week that Dogu would ultimately operate out of Venezuela. He added that Washington plans to establish a diplomatic presence in the country very quickly. Meanwhile, President Trump was asked about Venezuela's opposition leader Maria Machado and whether she should return to the country. Here's his response.
I think she's a very fine person. But I think I have to say at the same time, the current leadership is doing a very good job.
Since Maduro's capture last month, the Trump administration has moved quickly to establish more presence in the country. Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, has already taken steps favorable to Washington. She changed some laws to make it easier for foreign companies to operate in the country's oil sector. Rodriguez has announced a sweeping amnesty law that could lead to the release of hundreds of prisoners detained for political reasons. The measure excludes those convicted of homicide, drug trafficking, or rights abuses. Here's more.
Venezuela announced a proposed amnesty law for hundreds of prisoners in the country on Friday. Interim President Delcy Rodriguez said the infamous Alicoide detention center in Caracas will be converted into a center for sports and social services. She said the law will cover cases from 1999 until present day, with the goal being to heal wounds left by political confrontation and violence. But, she said, it will exclude those who may have participated in killings, serious abuses of human rights, and drug trafficking. It could also affect former prisoners who have already been conditionally released. Venezuela's opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Corina Machado, praised the proposal.
Obviously, this is not something the regime wanted to do voluntarily, but it is the result of real pressure from the United States government. Hopefully, it is so they say. Hopefully, the more than 700 prisoners who are still in torture centers in Venezuela can be with their families very soon.
Rights advocates have long demanded that charges and convictions against political prisoners be dropped. Many of them are often subject to charges like terrorism and treason, which their families say are unjust and arbitrary.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says former Prince Andrew should testify before the US Congress over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. New files show Andrew kept contact with Epstein after his conviction. Buckingham Palace declined to comment. Prince Andrew denies wrongdoing. Steve Reid, the UK's Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, joined Starmer in urging Prince Andrew to testify before Congress. Here's more.
The former Prince Andrew should testify before a US congressional committee, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said. That's after the latest revelations about Andrew's links to the deceased sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein. New files published by the US Justice Department include emails that showed King Charles's brother maintaining regular contact with Epstein for more than 2 years after he was found guilty of child sex crimes. The files also include pictures appearing to show Andrew crouching over and touching the waist of an unidentified woman lying on the floor. King Charles stripped his brother of the title of prince and evicted him from his mansion in the grounds of Windsor Castle in November, in the wake of previous revelations. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as he is now known, has denied wrongdoing in connection with Epstein. He did not reply to a Reuters request for comment on the latest revelations. Buckingham Palace declined to comment. Speaking to reporters on the plane to Japan following his 4-day visit to China, Starmer said Andrew should explain everything he knows to US lawmakers to help Epstein's victims. Anybody who has got information should be prepared to share that information, he said, in whatever form they are asked to do that. The files show Andrew maintained regular contact with Epstein after his conviction, including discussing potential business deals and social meetings. In several emails, Epstein and Andrew discuss women that the financier proposes to put in touch with the prince. In one email, Epstein offered to bring 3 women to Buckingham Palace.
Coming up, President Trump saying he's not concerned about instability at the top of Beijing's power structure following the ouster of Chinese leader Xi Jinping's second-in-command. And President Trump choosing the successor to Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell last week. Will Kevin Warsh lead the Fed to make the rate cuts the president has been calling for? Our guest explains in just a moment, right here on NTD News Today.
That truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
Hi, my name is Brady. When I was born, my parents thought everything was okay. My mom and dad were so excited to take me home.
I still get goosebumps telling this story. Several days in, his skin started to become very cold and clammy. We noticed that he had become blue around his mouth, and something was just very off.
We packed up as fast as we could. Brady stopped breathing twice on the way to the pediatrician. And that was one of the number one things that just haunts me to this day.
I was born with a congenital heart defect called aortic coarctation. If my parents waited just one more hour to drive me to the hospital, I would not be here today. But thanks to research funded by the American Heart Association, I had heart surgery that saved my life. But not every kid is as lucky as me, which is why we need your help. Just call the number on the screen or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help. Get people trained in CPR. Get more hospitals certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. And help fund the next medical breakthroughs to help save kids like me.
When you donate to the American Heart Association, you're helping save lives like my son. And now, my son is happy and healthy, thanks to the support of people like you.
When you call with your $19 a month, you'll get this really cool t-shirt as a thank you. Many children die from congenital heart defects. I can't wait to grow up to become a heart surgeon and fix babies' hearts, but until then, I'll keep helping the American Heart Association. So please join me. Just call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org to become a monthly donor and help save lives.
Life's daily battles are not meant to be fought alone.
We're not powerless, so long as we don't lose sight of what's important.
Don't be afraid to seize that moment to talk to your friends.
Cloud, you okay?
Because checking in on a friend can create a safe space.
The first step on our new journey. You coming?
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Seize the awkward. It's totally worth it.
Welcome back. Britain's China trip delivered headlines and limited trade wins, but no breakthroughs on security or political disputes. Experts say the same holds for Canada, Europe, and India. Engagement with China has clear limits and does little to alter their position in the US-China rivalry.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's visit to China is the latest win Beijing can tout in its rivalry with Washington. But the deals Starmer brought home show how hard it is for middle powers like the UK and Canada to find balance between the United States and China. Canada's Mark Carney struck a trade deal on a similar visit weeks ago. India's Narendra Modi and European leaders have also made the trip. The message they're trying to send Washington is simple: we have alternatives.
If they do a deal with China, we'll do something very substantial.
That's if Trump continues to make trade tariff threats over issues like his plan to grab control of Greenland.
We need Greenland.
Economists warn a pivot to China has sharp limits. Alicia Garcia Herrero, chief Asia-Pacific economist at Natixis, calls the visits superficial gestures amid stalled global growth. China's consumer demand is weak.
Imports were flat last year, about $2.6 trillion, and they were mostly energy and commodities, not Western goods. Meanwhile, China's trade surplus hit a record $1.2 trillion. Its manufacturers have responded to Trump's tariffs by flooding goods into other markets at the expense of domestic producers. The deals Britain clinched in Beijing made some headlines: visa-free access for Britons going to China, lower Scotch tariffs, and multi-billion-dollar expansion plans for drug maker AstraZeneca. On harder issues, though, like China's Russian ties, its threats against Taiwan, and its political crackdown on Hong Kong, Starmer got nothing more than frank dialogue. At home, critics raised espionage and human rights accusations.
Next, President Trump commenting on China's recent ouster of leader Xi Jinping's second-in-command on Saturday.
As far as you're talking about China?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, there's one boss in China, that's President Xi. That's the president of heaven.
Are there any concerns about stability or?
No, I think President Xi is the boss. I watch it very closely, and he's highly respected in China. He's the boss.
Zhang Youxia, China's top general and Xi's second-in-command, was put under investigation last weekend. Liu Junli, chief of staff of the Commission's Joint Staff Department, was also under investigation. Their purge was a surprise, as the two are members of China's highest-ranking military decision-making body. Now, the six-member body is left with only Xi and one other general. The rest have all been ousted. Authorities accuse Zhang and Liu of corruption and challenging the governing structure of China's military. In Xi's China, these allegations usually refer to people he deems as threats to his rule. It's the highest profile purge to date of senior military leaders. Zhang's purge was unusually fast. It took less than 2 weeks from him disappearing from the public view to the official announcement, while it usually takes the regime months or even years to oust an official who enjoys such high ranking. Coming up, it's America's most consumed beverage. According to a 2025 report, Americans drink more coffee than they do bottled water. But is coffee ultimately good for our health? Vital Signs' Brendan Fallon presents the views of two doctors specializing in nutrition. Stay tuned.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Baby, you see, you're so right for me, and I
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to NTD. U.S. officials are set for the next trilateral talks with Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says a meeting is scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday. After an effort by President Trump, officials from both Russia and Ukraine recently sat down at the same table for the first time. Ukraine previously thanked the U.S. for the initiative, now saying Kyiv is hoping to get closer to a peace deal this week. Meanwhile, a spokesman for the Russian side said Trump's way of using social media as a means of doing politics is unseen. The spokesman also called Trump an effective leader who seeks peace, but the Kremlin warned that Russia will continue fighting for now, saying its military operation will be successful. Australia's electro-optic system says it plans to move its base and stock listing to Europe within a year, potentially becoming the first major defense firm to do so. The maker of a high-energy laser defense system says Ukraine has requested the technology, but funding remains uncertain. European partners want further testing before committing. Here's more.
The Australian-based company making these laser weapons may soon call Europe home, in a strategic pivot that could boost Europe's defense buildup and offer a cost-effective countermeasure for Ukraine. Electro-Optic Systems, or EOS, plans to relocate its headquarters and stock market listing to Europe within a year, which, if done, would make them the first major defense company to move permanently to Europe. It produces the Apollo high-energy laser weapon, which uses an invisible and silent beam of light to burn through targets, sending drones tumbling to the ground. CEO Andreas Schwer claims it's a superior and much less expensive alternative to conventional rockets, missiles, and guns, encountering the growing threat of drone warfare.
The laser is extremely cheap because there is no ammunition supply needed. You can shoot down a drone for cost of the energy, which is between $1 and $5 per shot.
EOS's product could get a real-world test in Ukraine. Schwer says it has received requests for the Apollo weapon from the Ukrainian government, but has yet to find a country willing to foot the bill, despite offering discounted prices. He adds that most of their Western European partners want to test and verify the system themselves before funding it for Ukraine, though they are not yet deployed at scale. And Europe's high-energy laser programs remain largely in prototype or research and development. Schwer says EOS production and engineering facilities are already being set up in Germany, and that they are in talks with 10 European governments about future orders.
For today's health segment, we have Vital Signs' Brendan Fallon with insights from two doctors into whether coffee is ultimately good for our health. Take a look.
Hello and welcome to Vital Signs. I'm Brendan Fallon. I have something for the coffee enthusiasts and non-enthusiasts today. I'm going to offer a balanced view, the views of a doctor who is pro-coffee and one not so pro-coffee. And in the end, I'll reveal my own stance on coffee. Though I'm a coffee lover, you might be surprised by how much coffee I'm drinking at the moment. First off, I spoke to Dr. Douglas Spiel, who's a radiologist and a pain management specialist and an athlete, and someone who is doing everything he can at 61 to live as long as possible. And this man is in incredible shape. He has amazing muscle tone. And I asked him, what are you doing, Dr. Spiel, to extend your lifespan, to keep yourself in as healthy a condition as possible? And surprisingly, caffeine was one of the things he mentioned. This is what he had to say about it.
3 to 5 cups a day is probably helpful. People who have schizophrenia, bipolar disease, serious depression disorder, they generally live 15 years less than people without those psychiatric manifestations. And if you drink 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day, they're only giving away 10 years.
Wow, that's a good endorsement of coffee.
Coffee is a potent AMPK activator. But if you're going to take it in the morning, wait 60 to 90 minutes after you've woken up so your cortisol level will drop.
Now, to go a little bit deeper into the science that Dr. Spiel mentions there, he talks about this protein, AMPK, which is a very important protein in the body. It works kind of like a fuel gauge, and when the ATP, the energy currency of our cells, when that drops too low, the stored energy drops too low, and the used energy rises, that's when AMPK activates, and it switches the body from growth mode to maintenance mode. And with that, you get all these wonderful processes kicking in. It's like the insulin sensitivity of the cells becomes higher. Glucose is more easily able to get into the cells, which is great on the diabetes prevention front. And also autophagy starts, which is where the cells are breaking down, discarding, even recycling cellular matter. This is fantastic for lifespan, for extending lifespan, and for health in general. This is what happens when people do intermittent fasting. Now, on the coffee con side, I spoke to a doctor, Dr. Daniel Amen, who does these amazing brain scans called SPECT scans, where he's looking at the effects, the activity in the brain when people are taking different substances, from alcohol to marijuana to caffeine. And this is what he has to say about the effects of caffeine on the brain.
It constricts blood flow, but it also suppresses a chemical called adenosine. And adenosine is the chemical that throughout the day slowly builds up, and it tells you to go to sleep. Well, caffeine blocks adenosine so you don't feel tired. The problem is adenosine is still going up, but it blocks the effect of it, and you end up with a rebound the next day. And that's why people start their days with caffeine, because what they're really doing is medicating sleep deprivation. And I would just argue, if you get rid of caffeine, your sleep's going to be better, your energy is going to be better. It's a short-term fix that continues to cause a long-term problem.
Now, in a moment, I'll share a clip from Dr. Amen talking about a patient who is an airline pilot with a serious coffee drinking problem. But first, let me share something else on the Coffee Pro side. There was a study done in 2009 looking at 20 years of follow-up data of 1,400 participants. And what they found was that those who drank 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day had a 65% lower chance of developing Alzheimer's than those who didn't drink coffee at all. Now, here's that clip from Dr. Amen.
Well, one of my favorite stories is an Air Force pilot who came to see me, and his brain looked way older than he did. And he wasn't using marijuana, but he was addicted to caffeine. He'd have anywhere from 6 to 12 cups a day. And he's like, but I can't live without it. And I'm like, no, that's a lie. You can live without it. I said, and if you want to just stop, well, you probably feel bad for 5 or 6 days. The other option is just go down by 10% a day. And he chose that, didn't have any withdrawal symptoms. A month later, he was stunned with the amount of energy he had, with how much better his sleep was. And it's the little lies we tell ourselves, I often say, that keep us fat, depressed, and feeble-minded. I need this. And the fact is, the brain is lazy. The brain does what you allow it to do. And good habits take just as much energy as bad habits. Now, you have to sort of reshape your brain. That takes a bit of energy.
And now in closing, I said that I'd reveal my own stance on coffee. I love coffee, but these days I barely touch it. Why? Because I'm someone somewhat susceptible to coffee's addictive effects. Why does coffee have this addictive effect on some people? There are a number of theories for this. One is related to the adenosine factor I talked about before, where people are basically using coffee to combat tiredness. Another relates to coffee being suspected to working similarly to cocaine. And cocaine is suspected to work by keeping the dopamine, the feel-good hormone, in the extracellular space longer to have its effect. Coffee is suspected to work in a similar way. But maybe you're not someone susceptible to coffee's addictive effects. Are you coffee pro or coffee con? If you're watching online, why not leave a comment or send a message if you're watching on TV. It's been great to be with you. I'm Brendan Fallon, and you've been watching Vital Signs.
Coming up, a new exhibition at the British Museum is rethinking the samurai, from warriors to artists and leaders. The surprising history is being revealed, including the powerful role of women. Stay tuned.
What if kids in America didn't have to go to bed hungry tonight? What if our moms, dads, and grandparents could put healthy food on the table every day to help us grow strong? What if all of our friends and neighbors had fresh food too, and there was no hunger at all in America? And what if there was a way today for you to help? Call now or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. So many of us don't have enough food to eat, but your monthly gift means families across the country and in your community can fill plates with food. Kids can get healthy meals year-round, even when school's out, and our neighbors can have fresh food. Food that moms, dads, entire families need to thrive. But right now, more people are facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. It takes all of us to make that happen. Will you help too? Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give just $19 a month, and we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag. It's our way of saying thank you for helping to end hunger for our neighbors. Because no kid, no mom or dad, nobody should go hungry in America. Nobody. So what if today was the day you could help nourish futures for our friends, our families, for all of us? Ending hunger is possible. What if we end it together? Call or give online today at helpfeedingamerica.org and your gift can be doubled. Thank you.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, the highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
Welcome back. An exhibition exploring the history and development of the samurai opens at the British Museum on February 3rd. The show traces the rise, influence, and legacy of Japan's legendary warriors, including the role of women, who made up nearly half of the samurai. It's a surprising look that challenges much of what we think we know about them. Here's more.
The British Museum is taking visitors inside 1,000 years of samurai history, detailing how they lived, governed, and evolved. The exhibition, titled Samurai, brings together more than 280 objects spanning centuries. They range from traditional armor to unexpected modern interpretations, including a Louis Vuitton outfit inspired by Japanese armor. The goal is to challenge the familiar image of the samurai as little more than sword-wielding warriors.
The image of the samurai has changed across time. At the beginning of the rise of the samurai, they're depicted as courtiers and not in armor, and it's a very different type of image of the samurai than what we might expect. And it's really during the 20th century that we have this development of the samurai image as this sword-wielding warrior, which is put forward by many films, TV, video games, and we explore that in this section as well.
The exhibition also shines a light on the often overlooked role of women in samurai society, when samurai were as much a social class as a fighting force.
Well, during the Tokugawa period, so from the early 1600s to 1868, samurai become a status group or a social class, and 50% are women. Women had their own quarters, and so during fires, women would have to lead the protection of their own quarters. And we have an incredible ceremonial firefighting jacket, which is embroidered in this extensive wave pattern, reflecting the use of water in their activity. And so we can see that women really took control of their lives.
Exhibition also explores the samurai as administrators, artists, and cultural leaders, balancing military responsibility with education and civic life.
Well, we all love a hero, and I think there's something so intriguing about the samurai. Not only are they incredible warriors on the battlefield, but they also have produced some incredible cultural objects and impact. And I think there's a fascination between that juxtaposition. We expect warriors maybe to just be strong and being on the battlefield, but in fact samurai had this incredible side to them, which was cultural literacy, and that's maybe something that we don't expect.
The Samurai exhibition opens to the public February 3rd and runs through May 4th. Don't miss it.
A long-term study of polar bears in Norway's Svalbard finds adult bears are healthier and carrying more fat than in past decades. Researchers say rebounding prey populations and dietary shifts may be helping them. Here's more.
The new study has found polar bears around Norway's Svalbard archipelago have become fatter on average. Norway's Norwegian Polar Institute analysed body measurements from 770 adult polar bears on Svalbard over 27 years. They compared their fat reserves and condition with regional ice-free days. Ice-free days increased by roughly 4 days a year over the 27-year period. Yet the mean body condition of the adult bears improved after 2000, indicating rising fat reserves despite declining sea ice. Senior researcher Jon Aj says that could be because prey previously overexploited by humans has rebounded.
And you also have a big increase in the number of walruses in Svalbard. And they don't kill walruses usually, but walruses also die from time to time. And walruses are big animals, so it's a lot of meat on a walrus or fat for the bears.
Aj says the news is positive, with studies showing the importance of being fat. If females are below a certain threshold in body weight, they won't be able to reproduce.
While the American colonies were still ruled under the British Crown, founding father Benjamin Franklin spent nearly 16 years living in London. Today, his former home there is helping to mark 250 years since American independence. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details on the only surviving Franklin residence in the world.
This building on London's Craven Street used to be home to one of American history's most iconic figures. Benjamin Franklin lived here between 1757 and 1775 and became an important figure in Britain's political, scientific, and social life. Head of education at the Benjamin Franklin House, Henry Wilkinson, explains.
Benjamin Franklin arrives in London as a celebrity. He's well known among scientific circles, which means he has a way into lots of dinner parties, social clubs, societies. He makes friends with a lot of very influential figures in the 18th century during this time, not just in London, but around the UK as well.
Built as a lodging house, the home still features original fireplaces, staircases, and floorboards. Replicas of Franklin's bifocal glasses are also on display. By the early 1770s, relations between Britain and the American colonies had grown tense. Franklin's status in London began to deteriorate.
Franklin is chased out of London in 1775. He's accused of being a spy. And by the time he gets back to America, Lexington and Concord happen, pretty much a week later, and the Revolutionary War begins.
Franklin didn't fight in the war, but still retained significant influence on how it was fought. He would help to draft the Declaration of Independence and secure French support for the revolution. Later, he would become a signatory to the United States Constitution.
He's too old to be on the front line of the American Revolution. He's more of an advisor. He gives the go-ahead, seal of approval. If Franklin is in the room, then what you're discussing is worth listening to, essentially. And if he gets up and leaves, you need to rethink what you're talking about.
The house opened to the public in 2006 after extensive restoration. While it contains interesting artifacts, Deputy Director Michael Hall says the focus is on the home.
We're a non-collecting museum, so we don't have a big collection. We have a few small objects, but the house itself is the main object that we use to interpret Franklin's time here. Because we don't know what the furniture was that was here, we only have a few references to small pieces.
Upstairs, past the original staircase, a decorative glass instrument is on display. As the bowls spin, the player touches the glass with dampened fingers to produce different notes.
The glass harmonica is invented by Franklin while he lives in the house, and it's something that he's really proud of. He enjoys showing it off to people, and it's partly because it is both a musical instrument, but sort of an Enlightenment musical instrument, so it's based on scientific theories.
As the United States celebrates 250 years since independence, Franklin's house is preparing a new digital app and digital exhibition, due to be unveiled in February. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
That's all for today's news. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific.
There's cultures that have been lost, but this culture hasn't been. The artist is showing us our sense of who we are, where we came from. You look at his hat. His hat is knitted probably by a man, because a man traditionally knitted the hats. That hat tells you the story of who this person is, what his place in the culture is, the animals around him. Everything's all contained in the messages in the hat. And the tool that he's carrying over his shoulder. This is a centuries-old tool that has been able to rework the mountains. Those traditions are invaluable, and if we don't honor those traditions, then we're rootless. The artist is showing us the value of maintaining our culture and respecting our culture.
There is a road laid out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is gonna be Addie's room.
I am blind.
Would you really like it? I hope so. Yeah.
I know this road is there for me. There is a long way.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
The way it's down